All right, so how are y'all today?
Oh, well, not too bad.
Y'all ready to have this conversation?
I'm ready.
Yep,
All
sure
right.
is.
Well, let's get into it. Welcome to Guess What's in My Cup. I am Dr. Jessica Ross, a sex therapist located in Michigan. I talk about all things sexual health and pleasure, and I'm excited to be with you today.
Hi, I'm Deja, aka Deja Therapist. I am a licensed professional counselor and newly a supervisor for a crisis care center. So I'm excited about that as well.
Congratulations.
Yeah, that's
Really,
awesome.
yeah. And hi, everyone. My name is Dr. Shelley. I'm a Michigan-based licensed psychologist who helps women navigating seasons of change, whether that's in career, motherhood, or self-discovery.
So this is us, right? This is us, and we're excited to bring the depth of conversation that we get to bring to you all. And so we just like to roll right into it, right? Guess what's in my cup is a conversation about all things between life, love, and anything that's in between, right? It gets messy, it gets busy, it gets loud, and we get to have a conversation about it all. So I'm wondering, what did you all bring to drink today? What's in your cup? I'm real basic today.
Very.
Might be too. I added a little razzle, but we went water in the mason jar with cucumbers inside of it.
Okay.
I was real close to ginger ale. I wanted ginger ale, and that was
Mm,
gonna be my thing because I wanted it. And I think there was something else in my head that was saying, "Well, that's what's available right now." And I'm like, well,
mm,
"Water is also available, my dear." And so,
mm,
learning to lean into some of these easier choices for myself as I'm making certain pivots. This felt like, well, no, you can do this. And then again, adding a little razzle to what felt like, meh, do I want water? Yeah,
hmm
I need water.
Mhm.
Listen, I'll cheers to that. My cup is the most razzle that I have. I have me some nice water in here as well. I was feeling the need for nourishment,
Mm.
and I was feeling like there was true thirst, right? I really needed moisture within my body. And so ideally I went to grab water. So easy. I have ginger ale in the refrigerator too.
Because
And I have all lemonades, cranberry juices. And I was like, no, but your body is thirsty.
yeah.
You need something that is going to nourish. So water it is, just in a fancy cup.
Water. I have water as well. I think the last time we talked, I was under the weather, and I'm under the weather again. So I have water because I'm trying to clear out these sinuses and all of that. But we'll be good. I'm happy to drink
Yeah.
some water.
Mm. So I'm laughing because I'm thinking about there's this picture, I'm sure you all have seen it. It's like it's a meme and it's like a person sitting in the middle of like multiple dumpster fires and they're like, it's fine. It's fine. That's what I thought about when Deja's like, yeah, but it's gonna be okay. Like we trucking through it.
Okay,
And like,
yes, for sure. This
yeah.
weather has had me in the chokehold for real.
Mm,
Cycles, like, all right, give me rest. Give me longer
hmm
than 2 weeks without being sick.
Yeah. But it reminds me of the cycle of like life and relationships, right?
Mm.
Like we go through these seasons that look really amazing, really bright, really beautiful, really like effervescent. And then we go through these spaces that are dark and glum and without color, right? And that shows up in relationships in a lot of ways. And maybe that's what's in my cup, right? Is I've been thinking about how I'm seeing representations of just relational dynamics in really everything that I look at. Like now is the holiday time, and we're seeing all of the feel good Hallmark movies where somebody's finding love for Christmas, right? And it's it, people are, what do they say? This is cuddle time. So now people are like linking up and hooking up so that they stay warm. Like all of these things. So I don't know, this cycle that you all are talking about makes me think of relationships and the phases that they go through.
That's good.
Yeah.
Change.
Definitely this what does they call it? It's like cuffing season. When it
Uh-huh.
gets cold, you in the house more, so you want somebody in the house with you, like you said, Jessica, like staying warm or just, just having somebody to spend time with because you're not outside. You're not out partying, not a lot, right? So like just to have
Hmm.
somebody in the house with you watching movies, so definitely cuff. That time of year is here for sure.
Because there's so much emphasis on like togetherness and all of those things, it can bring up so many feelings of like loneliness within a person. And so then you're kind of like craving it as well. It's just like, man, I just want
Hmm.
somebody, to lay up with, right?
Yeah.
Hmm.
And I was recently actually just talking about that at work this past week about how like this is also a time of year where exes reach out, right? Like people from your past will reach out because it's like familiar that y'all spend holidays together and just being
Wow.
strong around this time because we all are craving that. But if it's somebody from the past, maybe that's not, you don't need that. Not that person.
It might not
She
be
said, don't spin the block.
Just because it's the holidays. Yeah.
good. Mm,
So, okay. So if we're gonna jump into relationships, I'm curious, what do you all think about, or how do you categorize like these concepts of relationship? Because we're talking about cuffing season, we're talking about, people talk about smashing, people talk about, long-term relationships, complicated status on relationships, marriage versus long-term partner versus romantic partner versus platonic romance, like all of these titles like show up nowadays. Like, how do you think that lays out? Like, how would you categorize them? What are the major categories and things that you all are seeing?
Ooh, so many. I mean, of course, we're seeing like at least like people around like my like talking, but it's and this
Mm,
is a conversation I have a lot with like my friends and stuff. Like you have to discuss what the definition is because talking can mean so many things. That can actually mean dating. That can just mean talking, meaning y'all literally just talk on the phone.
mm-hmm,
But I think like talking is a category or dating. That's like one thing where y'all are actually actively going on dates. I think that of course being in a relationship, which you are being faithful to one person, that's a category. Then you have, of course, like friends with benefits or
mm,
sneaky link, which is that's a distinction there. Because friends with benefits is you can be kind of open like with this person, but then sneaky link is like you don't want nobody to know that y'all talking. So that's like so it's so many categories, but like the ones that I see, like those are kind of the trending or the situationships. That's the thing too.
mm,
Yeah.
mm-hmm,
like in this season of my life right now, I right because we've had different seasons, so I've
yeah,
noticed different things throughout those different seasons. But in this current one, the relationships that are most prevalent in my like field of like whatever is definitely marriage. Um, Definitely like familial relationships and on both ends, right? The
mm,
family I create and like the family I come from. Um, and friendships are actually really like prevalent, like really
mm,
relevant in my life and like even in the lives of my friends right now. Like those are really coming up. They're really important right now.
mm, mm-hmm. I wonder, because I think all of one, what Deja said, has shown up in my life at different
Okay.
places and different times. I probably hit every one of the categories, right?
Stories.
Listen, if the walls could talk. And then to your point, as we grow older, and let me take that back, as some of us grow older and become more stable, then we have sort of spaces where we're thinking about relationships that we actually invest in. And
Mm,
it sounds like the difference in what you two are talking about are really like relationships that you are vested. I'll use like um, financial terminology, like where you're vested, where you put some time in, you've gotten some contributions back, right? And then you can pull something out of it versus, scenarios where it's kind of like a checking account, as quick as it come and go.
Mm-hmm.
Mm.
And there's a season for all of that, right?
Hmm.
I think like there might even be people who identify with this who like they're trying to have a full whatever investment accounts off somebody a little too early in the game or somebody who's just not set up or equipped for like all of those different things. And so knowing when and who and in what relationships, like what is required of you or what you want and being clear on what those expectations are. I think you talked about expectations in that last one. They pop up in all sorts of things, especially when
Hmm.
we're talking about relationships.
Hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I watched a very small portion of the Finding Joy movie. I think it's a Tyler Perry movie.
Mm.
Oh, I didn't see it.
It's a recent movie, but I watched a piece of it because I was talking to my line sister, and she was like, "I watched this movie. It's crazy, and it made me think about relationships." So this young woman is uh she has a friend, let's call it, okay? And in the scenes that they show, he's like blowing her kisses. He's like putting his hand on the small of her back. And her friends are like, "Do you have clarity on what you all are?" She's like, "Oh, he likes to take it slow. Oh, we're just taking it slow. We're getting to know each other." And so they make a comment in front of him where they go, "What's the status?" And he go, "Oh, that's my girl. We good. That's my girl." And so he eventually invites her to his family's house. He's like, "Hey, I want you to come meet my family in Colorado." She gets all dressed up. She goes, and he is introducing her to his fiance. Okay. And her friends told her multiple times, like, "You need to get clarity. What does you're my girl mean? What does you blowing me a kiss, but not, taking me on a date mean? What is we're kind of date? Like, what are these things? How do we define them?" And I find that interesting because I'm like, so many people get caught up in thinking somebody is their man or their partner or their girl or their whatever, and y'all have not made any definitive right lines as to what you are. This woman flew all the way to Colorado and jumped out of a window. It was a Tyler Perry movie, y'all. So, right. And jumped out of a window because you didn't create clarity in
Yeah.
your relationship about whether or not you were dating. What was
Mm.
being his girl? What did that mean? What does me meeting your family mean? Like, how does that
That,
fit into who we are?
that's so many things that come up for me when I think about that, right?
Ooh.
Like when we
Yeah.
start to look at actions versus words, like when we start to make interpretations based on actions as opposed to having conversations that probably are hard, probably are stigmatized because, like, what do you mean? What are we? Like, I've known like that's been a weird conversation since I've been a
Yeah.
little girl, right? Like, I need
Hmm.
in the relationship to understand, like, ooh, that brings up stuff for people. That's not something like tread lightly around those areas.
Yeah.
Hmm.
And yet the reality that you're saying is no, in order to have clarity, in order for one person not to feel bamboozled, rugs pulled from underneath them, in order for us to be able to go about this in a way as like grown adults, it
Hmm.
requires the communication that we've been taught to avoid. And then again,
Yeah.
looking for signs, like we're over here Inspector Gadgeting, trying to figure out, okay, well, what does this mean? Or what does that mean? And it's like, well, hold on. Clarity
Yeah.
helps.
I
Hmm.
think Shelly, you hit it on the nose because that's what I was thinking. Like we we talk about having these conversations and like I mentioned earlier, like defining these things, these titles, but we also really don't talk about how much the conversation of the what are we is like shunned. Like and or how soon can you have that conversation? Like we've been dating for 2 months. Can I say, or we've been talking or texting or going out for 2 months? Is it okay for me to say, what are we? Or do I sound crazy? Like, oh, you're rushing. Oh,
Hmm.
you're moving too fast. Let's go with the flow. Like, so it's sometimes even when men ask women that, like, it's like, we just chilling. We just like it's all of these such like general descriptions until somebody catches real feelings. So then that's when it becomes like an urgent thing, and not like you said, all this confusion, and people are trying to like look for signs. So I think that's one of the big issues is like now that I'm moved into my 30s, it's like, no, I want like concrete clarity, like, you know, definitions. Like, what do you look like? What does dating to you mean? Do you date
Time,
multiple people? Do
please.
you date one person at a time? What does that look
Yep,
like?
yep.
But also it's like, why you asking me all of this? We only been talking for 2 weeks. What do you
Hmm.
know?
I mean, and you get those people. I think I was listening to the interview with T-Pain, and he like, no, I asked her to marry me after 3 months. You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? Like, it's different. But to your point, what I'm hearing, the larger point from both of you is that when we're talking about relational dynamics, no matter whether we're talking about a friendship, a marriage, seeking a right, a coffin buddy, we're saying communication is key. And we're saying that we need to pay attention to both direct and indirect communication. And so a note that I wrote down is like understanding the difference between communicating for clarity and communicating for protection.
Mm,
And and understanding like what those things look like, and then understanding, and you didn't say this, but I'm gonna add this, that culturally communication looks very different. And I don't just mean like race, but there's gender, there's socioeconomic status. Like there's a lot of culture pieces that plays into it where you're talking about tone, context, what does silence mean? What are your facial expressions and how those play into your understanding in relationship.
And then the relational trauma that we get along with that, right? Because what your tone or what your facial expressions might mean to me might be connected to like this longer history I have of like, that doesn't feel great, or that brings up like flags for me. And you might just be thinking, like, that's your thinking face, or whatever it is.
Hmm.
But like, we bring so much into relationships,
Hmm.
we bring our whole selves.
And I think it goes to also, which this is going to be like, away from communication, but the level of responsibility and accountability you have to be in a relationship, because you're right. The way you communicate with me may be triggering for me based on past relationships and attachments. However, whose responsibility is that?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
mm-hmm. Ooh,
Mm-hmm.
Right? What do we do? What do we do with that? Like I'm coming into a relationship with this trauma and then I'm putting it on you, asking you to resolve and fix it and shift who you are to show up for me. And I'm not saying that we can't explain to people what hurts or harms us and ask them to be kind and considerate or empathetic. Like I'm not saying that, but I am saying like who needs to be accountable for what you bring into the relationship
mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
and the
Yeah,
kind of communication you need to be successful in that relationship.
And I think that's where knowledge of both parties makes the most sense, right? Because we can call it whatever it is. But when you then engage in a relational dynamic where like both of our stuff are now mixing together, some concoctions don't make sense. It just naturally doesn't. And I think those create a more conflictual relationship, and then it feels like one is then required to either like stuff it down or the other is required to completely change. And I think those get really hard because, ooh, what is required for me to exist in this space and what is required for you to exist in this space conflict with one another. I think that if you can know that about yourself and like bring those conversations into relationships, maybe not early, but like a little earlier than like, oh shoot, we stumbled upon it and here it is, because that's still gonna happen. Like we don't know all our stuff until we start stepping on some of our stuff. But if we can have those conversations, they can say, you know what? Well, actually, growing up in my family, like banter or picking on each other, like that's how we show love. I don't like that. That actually feels like bullying to me, or that feels like whatever to me. Those things are going to feel weird, like in connection to one another. And then you got to decide what you want to do with it, right? So,
mm-hmm.
okay, this different exists. What do we, as the people in the relationship, want to do with this?
Yeah.
Hmm.
And I always think that, like, with stuff like that, like an example for that, like compromise is such a big thing, like to me in relationships, and not saying like you said, Jessica, nobody should have to change who they are. Like you should not have to do a 180, But I think that a level of understanding and grace can be extended. So if you know that I don't really like teasing because maybe my family used to tease me a lot, or at a school I used to get teased, that maybe can be a compromise. Like, okay, we won't poke, fun in that way at you versus, saying, or if the person does poke fun, maybe the person gives them grace, like, okay, they know I really don't like this, but they've been doing this for years. So it's like always a compromise. But I also think that where's the balance? Like, it's not like a clear cut balance with like, okay, I'm only gonna do
Then
it this
maybe
many
a certain time,
times.
right? Like, you don't play with me when it comes to this and this.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
see, I think compromise. I'm struggling with the word compromise. Y'all know I don't like that word anyway. But let me ask you this, because what I hear you saying really is like we need to come to an agreement about how we interact. When I hear
Mhm.
compromise, I feel like somebody loses because a compromise says I have to give up something in
Mm,
order to show up in this space. I have to lose something. I mean, the literal definition is that somebody loses something in order to come right to a consensus about something. So are you saying like, no, we need to come to an agreement about how we interact? Or are you saying like, no, I need to give up that part of myself in order to be in relationship with you?
Um, I think so. Agreement is a good word. I think in my brain, it is you both are kind of giving up something because if you're so used to always joking and that's how you show love, in this space, you are kind of giving that up or taking like toning it down a little bit. So I don't want to say like one person has to give up something and the other person doesn't. It's kind of like you both come to an agreement, like, okay, these things are off the table for this relationship. Like if I know that you don't like being ignored, or and it don't have to be intentionally being ignored, but it could be like, okay, I took 3 hours to text you back, but I'm on social media, so now you feel ignored. So just being more cognizant. So it's not, I don't want it, like you said, it's not like somebody has to lose or somebody has to win. In my brain, it's just kind of like you come to this mutual agreement, and that may mean some things are off the table for both of us.
like this understanding that gets
Yeah.
formed. And if any party is not okay with that understanding, right? Because that's when we're like, oops, sometimes it just doesn't work. I think we try real hard to make square pegs fit in round holes. I
Mm,
think the more you learn yourself, the more you can honestly admit, like, can I actually give? Would giving this feel like a pulling from myself? Because some things I give and I really don't care, right? I'm like,
mm,
whatever. But if something feels that connected and it's in direct conflict with whatever you need to do or however you show up, I actually really have to consider that.
Mhm.
And
mm.
so does whoever that other person is. Because if it feels like a non negotiable, if it feels like, oh, that's too much, say that. Because it's
Yeah.
come up later anyway, when you're
Yeah.
still doing whatever the thing is.
hmm hmm No, I completely agree. And I mean, it brings me back to the original question. Who's responsible for your past? Who's responsible for your trauma? Who's responsible for your triggers? Like, yeah, we all need to be considerate of one another and we all need to make, I think we all get to have choices in relationships where I get to ask, are you willing to, or do you want to, or do you have the capacity or ability to show up for me in this way to Deja's point? Like, here's what I need. Are you able to do this and show up in this way? But the truth is, you get to say no. You don't have to come to a compromise with me. You get to say no. And then I get to figure out what my next step is,
Mhm,
right? And so it's always dependent on me to get that need met. And if you are not the person to meet that need, I need to then be prepared to make other choices.
mhm,
Even if that means disconnecting from you, or that means going about our relationship in a different way, because
mhm,
I know you are not that person. Maybe you feel like, nah, I'm a jokester. That's who I am. I'm not getting ready to pull that off for you. Right. So if that's the case, cool, be who you are. But I now know how to interact and engage with you. Right. And I now know how to get my need met. And I know you won't be the person to do it.
mhm,
Mhm. Yeah. I think the big piece of that is knowing that it's okay if y'all don't mesh well. Like it's like that is okay. You're not gonna mesh well with everybody. You're not going to be compatible in that way with everybody. And this is just not even relationships, friends too. Like, because we can talk about the friendship dynamic of like maybe a friend does something you don't like, and you
Mhm.
told them, but since y'all been friends for 10 years, or y'all been friends since high school, you feel like, oh, okay, well, this is my friend, but you really don't like how they show up for you. You really
Yeah.
don't like how they talk to you. You really don't like how they throw stuff in your face, right? So, I think knowing that it's okay to walk away, because people change, people grow up, people turn into different people, or they just mature, like whatever that looks like. So I think, yeah, I think thinking about like that big point of it's okay if it's not working. If y'all have had this conversation multiple times and people are not willing to pivot or
Mm-hmm.
show empathy, like then yeah, consideration,
Mm-hmm.
then it's like, okay, this is not gonna work. And that doesn't
Because
make you a bad
Yeah.
person.
you get to decide who you are in relationship with, and that
Yes.
matters a lot. Like when you think about how important and just what impact relationships actually have on us, you start to realize, ooh, who I have around me matters. And so when you start to get into that habit or into that pattern of, oh, they said they are unwilling to do this, so then it's on me to like stuff it. No, that's not what that means. It's on you to assessing yourself. Do I have the ability to say, or to want to, or to whatever, to put it over there, or for it to not be affected over here? And sometimes the answer to that is no. Like, no, I can't deal with that. No, I don't want to deal with that. No,
Mm.
it would feel like self betrayal for me to continue to show up in this relationship, knowing that I have to engage in this way, or kind of like put this guard up around me to be able to be around you. Like, know that about yourself, and that takes work. I say that
Yes.
none of the judgment, because maybe it's a process, and it's an uncomfortable process, especially when we start to like put other people like in
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
that, because it brings up all of our old relational stuff, all of those messages we got taught growing up about what does it mean to be too much, or what does it mean to like take up space, or what does it mean to be a burden. Like those things come up in relationships because we care about our connection to other people.
And you're bringing up two things because we talked about, okay, communication is important. That is key,
Mm-hmm.
right? And not just talking, but having some depth in what you're saying, some understanding, some transparency, some honesty. And then you just touched on, okay, the attachment and early learning piece, right? Like how our trauma, our neglect, inconsistent caregiving, healthy relationships, positive things we see, relationships with people.
Repair.
Right, right, right. And so, like, what repair looks like, what rupture looks like. And then you also brought up something to me that hit on boundaries and autonomy,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like when you talked about knowing and self-betrayal and
Yeah.
what you can do for yourself and what you can't, which tells me, like, okay, there's a difference between boundaries and punishment. There's a difference between boundaries and limits. There's a difference between what I am capable of and what I will not do because it is harmful for me. And setting that boundary, whether it's physical, mental, sexual, digital, like whatever that looks like, becomes a really important part of peace, or yeah, important part of peace, but an important piece of safety, of health,
Yeah.
of well-being, of even being able to engage in that relationship in the first place,
Yeah.
like whatever kind of relationship it is. And to your point about repair and rupture, like most of us don't see that, and most of us don't know how to navigate it.
Yeah.
And we think when something ruptures, like that's it. I'm gonna tell you for sure, your girl. There are some people that I've ruptured with, and I'm like, that's
Yeah.
it. Do you? We good? Um, But then there's also that space of like, I think about rupture specifically when your boundaries are pushed.
Mm-hmm.
How do you manage that? Like, how do you deal with that? Because most people are like, well, if you push my boundaries, I'm cutting you off. Or
Mm-hmm.
or if you push my boundary, I'm gonna just let you in. Right? Like, but what does it look like if a boundary, if relationally a boundary is ruptured or there is a rupture in the relationship or a tear at the fabric of the relationship? What does that look like in terms of repair, or how do I know if repair is an option?
That, oh, it's deeper, right? Like there's so much
Yeah.
meat in that, because like at the bottom of that rupture, like there's a breakdown in trust that happens. And trust
Mm.
is a real funky thing to be playing around with sometimes. And the reality is, it's what happens. And so I don't think it's impossible. But honestly, for me as a person who, again, has never seen repair growing up, and so repair is something I have to intentionally work at, it's some of the hardest work there is to actually do because there's a part of your brain that says, why would I touch the hot stove twice? That seems stupid. Like it feels logically ridiculous to let this person back in again. And yet the reality is some relationships call for that. And so like that question you asked, well, how do you determine which is which? I think it's so personally
Yeah.
dependent.
Yeah. I think it's hard. I think it's a very hard question because like you said, sometimes people, soon as they feel the rupture, as soon as they feel like it's an issue, it's like, oh, cut off. Like, really, that's a defense mechanism. They don't even try to repair. They don't even, it's like, okay, you're cut off. But I don't know. Something about me, I always look at it the opposite way. Like, I always look at it like the empathetic way because nobody is perfect. Like,
Mm.
and sometimes a person, you might have instilled a boundary with someone or just say, hey, I don't like this, or hey, and that person may have every intention to do right and they mess up. And it's like, but you love them. So, or nothing else is going wrong. So what do? Do you walk away and just leave, or do you actually try to repair it? So it's hard, but then also it's like, yeah, don't be a fool and just let somebody keep like doing you wrong. So it's to me, I always look at that that's very hard because I do believe in people deserve grace. And like if it's a habit that you always had and you did this and now you're asking someone to break a habit that they've been doing for 20 years because it triggers you or because like, oh, I don't like this, do you think that they're going to be able to just turn that off
Yeah. So what
afterwards?
is the
Mm.
offense? Like how egregious, and do
Yeah.
you give space for learning to happen? That's real hard, Deja. That's
Yeah.
actually real hard because there's a part of you that's like, I already told you I don't like that. And there is kind of this expectation sometimes to, so don't do that no more. And
Yeah.
there are things that that is easier for, and there are things that that is harder for. As a person who does a lot of work around change, as a person who has done a lot of change work within themselves, consistency is hard when you're trying something new. And so like it's a lot to be learned. It's a lot
But
to be
you
learned.
said like broken trust. I
Mm.
don't know that I thought about, and it hit me like boundaries. Like, yeah, if I say this and you keep doing it, like I can't trust you with myself.
Yeah.
And so, like, Deja, like part of where I'm bringing that to is like, if I can't trust you with me, how do I, like, to your point, how do I know if repair is possible? Like, yeah, you've been doing the same thing for 30 years.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe this is the first time I've asked you, or maybe I've been asking you for 30 years. Like, what is the cutoff point?
Mm-hmm.
And maybe
Yeah.
you're right. Like, maybe it is personal. Maybe it's individual to each person. Like, I don't think any one of us could get on and be like, okay, after the
Yeah.
33rd time,
Yeah.
cut them off. You know what I mean? But
Yeah.
I do think there's a point where you're saying, I can't trust you with me. And if I can't trust you with me, I have to, my opinion, I have to now put you in your place within my circle,
And how,
within my life.
mm-hmm.
I
Yeah.
have to move the piece.
Yeah. Because where my brain is going is like the way that people resolve conflicts. Because I feel like that's like that can be a big thing in relationships. So like if you're dating someone and they have like an anxious attachment, right? And they want to talk about it right now, or they want to talk about it, and the other person is kind of like, I don't want to talk about it right now. I need to calm down. Or that's how they've always been growing
Yeah.
up. They couldn't talk about things. So this is not just something that they are choosing to do. This is what they've been doing. And you
Yeah.
sit down and you tell your partner, hey, I don't like when you withdraw when we get into it. Since the next time y'all get into it, they should just lean in. Like, or this has been something they've been dealing with. And it's
Mm-hmm.
not necessarily on purpose, but it's just like, okay, a lot is going on. Emotions are running high. Let me go off before
But I'm
I
gonna
say,
turn around and say, I don't like when you chase me around the house, asking me what's going on.
You know
yeah,
what they was talking about compromise in the beginning? That is actually one of the examples where I think it's compromise to the definition. Like
yeah,
both parties are like,
Yeah.
One of us want in this. Because realistically, the anxious attachment, being an anxious attachment, you got to learn to settle what's in your body that comes up, because that's what we're trying to get rid of. Like, this doesn't feel good until it feels resolved. You need the space. The conversation is actually much better when I give you that space, right? Because otherwise you're just giving me nonsense and I can't. And so if
Mm-hmm.
I can give you that space, the communication that is actually what we're trying to achieve gets better. But how do I sit in my stuff long enough to give you the space? And for you, how do you actually use the space to do what you need to do, not just ignore or avoid or run away, because you got to come back. And like
Mm-hmm.
that's the part where both parties, which tend to find each other, like the anxious attachment and the avoidant attachment,
Right.
they love it to get together. Love to.
Right. 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 But like to your point, like if I know I'm a pursuer,
Mhm.
okay, right? Pursuer is that anxious attachment. I'm the person who, no, we need to talk right now. No, we need to get this resolved. No, this is really important. No, we don't go to bed tight or angry. Did it? Okay. You have to learn to self-soothe.
Yeah.
Okay. You have
Mm-hmm.
like that's what I hear you saying. Like it is
Yeah.
up to you to learn to soothe what's
Yeah.
coming up for you because pursuing is not it's actually a protest behavior. It's counterproductive and it's going to create more space rather than closeness, right? You're
Yeah.
going to get the opposite impact from it. And withdrawing, like this, like again, like it is probably best for all parties sometimes to take a step back and reevaluate what's being said so that they can pursue or not pursue but interact. The thing about the withdrawer, right, is that you also have to recognize that you need to communicate. So you need to be able to say to the person who's a little bit more of a pursuer, right, you know what, I need time, because there's a difference. Most withdrawers will just go away
Or
as a
shut down. They'll
or
physically
just
be
shut
there, but
down.
they just not there no more. Like,
Yeah, and not be present.
yeah.
And so, as opposed to doing that, you need to be able to say, you need to be able to externalize, right? Hey,
Yeah.
I have to take a step back.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, but the thing you brought up, right? Pursue a withdrawal, then you have the explosive, the shutdown, and you have the passive aggressive, right? Like you have all of these things that show up, and you both of y'all are right. Like they find each other. Those three groups of people just happen to attract like damn magnets, right?
Uh-huh.
What did Cardi B say? I'm a magnet, baby. Listen.
But
Mm-hmm.
and like when we talk about this idea of the boundaries and things, and that's why I'm like, things are personal and they're specific, because I think that's one of the ones where it's like, this can be different and it can work. It just
Hmm.
takes intentionality on both sides and learning to do something that you actually probably haven't learned, which is how we've ended up in this like
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
relational pattern or this relational cycle in the first place. And so, what does it look like for us both to kind of be navigating this together and to feel like I can trust you as my partner in this? Because even that, I
Mm-hmm.
don't know if it's necessarily like we can take the interpretation like, ooh, you're just walking away when I'm talking to you. You must not care. And that's not the experience of the withdrawer. They go away not because they don't care about the relationship, but because a lot of times it's what they feel is probably best for the relationship. And it's too much that's coming up in one moment, right? I need a second to process. And so giving them that time allows them to put words together instead of just like, you ever just, well, come on, like, I can be quick in a conversation.
Oh yeah, that's me. I'd be like, what did you say? Like,
It's
spit
there.
it out.
It's there. And it sucks because what it does is there's a part where it feels like, oh, it did what it was supposed to do, right? Because now we're talking it out. So that feeling feels like it's being attended to. But is it though?
Mm-hmm.
And so there's a little bit of like instant gratification, delayed gratification kind of thing
Mm-hmm.
to work through there. Like if my goal is to actually work on this relationship, I need to give him time or her time or them time to be able to
Yeah, yeah. But part of
work.
what you all are saying is that there needs to be emotional safety in the relationship, right? Whether it's a friendship, a romantic
Yeah.
relationship, whatever, right? Like what both of you are saying is there needs to be a place for emotional safety. There needs to be space for vulnerability, and I need to be able to show up authentically. I'm gonna put an asterisk next to that one because somehow people got the idea that showing up authentically means right, coming in like a Tasmanian devil. And I can be direct and I can be
That's what I
nasty. That's right. Like I'm gonna just be who I am. That's not what that means. Right. And so it simply says that I can show up as my whole self in a room with
yeah.
regard for the other people that I impact. And
Mhm.
so what we're asking or what we're saying is that if you're going to be in relation with somebody else, a relationship with somebody else, then you need to be a part of the c- container creating, which
Yeah.
is right, creating that emotional safety, creating a space of trust, recognizing when a rupture has happened, and then going about figuring out what does repair look like for that particular space,
Yeah.
which I'm curious because this comes up a lot, and I'm sure you guys have thought about this. When we think about ruptures, one of the biggest ones that I hear people talking about is relationship reciprocity. This
Mm,
idea that relationships are one-sided. I'm always the one that calls. I'm always the one that shows up for people. I'm always, the one that runs the errands. I'm always the one that plans the party. Like that is the thing that I see the most, especially at this big age, that people are like, I'm not doing that anymore. They not calling me. I'm not calling them.
yeah.
I'm not stressing myself out. I'm not pouring into one-sided relationships. What do y'all think about that?
Um,
I
when
got
people, so
it.
I can say a lot about that, but I will say for me, I I just genuinely when people say that, like I don't agree with that, or I'm not even I don't agree. I just don't resonate with that because if it's genuine, it's genuine. Like if you pop in my head, I'm gonna text you, even if you haven't texted me in a year. Like it's I don't know. It's just like I don't really pay attention to what other people and you know what? I think it's levels to that though. Like
Mm,
associates or extended family and
Mm,
things like that. But when it comes to my direct family and like my best friends, I think, well, one of my best friends, I think that that's very like, girl, I ain't talked to you. Like, we ain't been able to like throw all our stuff, on each other in a while. Like, what's going on? But I think some friends, I consider myself, or they would consider me a low maintenance friend. Like, I don't
mhm,
need to talk to them much. But when we do talk, we might be on the phone for 3 hours, but we might not talk again for 6 months. So I think that it just depends on the person. But I don't know. I've just never been that person like, oh, well, they haven't called me, so I'm not calling them. They didn't text me happy birthday, so I'm not texting. Like, okay, maybe they was busy that day. Because I'm a person that'll put my phone up and text and never press send. Like, I'm that person, so I feel like that is possible
Give
for
more
other
grace
people
in
as
that.
well.
Yeah.
but I like that low maintenance friend. Like I like this categories of
Yeah.
friendship. So okay, I like that. I'm gonna have to ask people, are you a low maintenance friend, high maintenance? Like,
Some
let me
shade
know.
recently on the social medias. I said, when did low maintenance start being confused with no maintenance? Like it's
Yeah.
not. Like
Mhm.
hold on, hold
Yeah.
on. Because
Yeah.
Yeah.
especially in this season, like I am very aware of where I'm at. And to the people who have been riding with me through where I'm at, shout out to them because I am barely available. And it's because life is demanding a lot in a lot of different
Mhm.
ways. And I think this sucks to say, but it's the reality of it. When some part of your life is requiring more, it has to pull from somewhere. We actually only have
Mhm.
so much time.
Mhm.
It has to
Mm.
pull from somewhere. And so then, like, I think in moments like that, friendships start to get tiered. And it's not to say that there is love lost at somebody who's at a different tier. It's the reality of, I literally have this much space. And so where
Mhm.
that goes has to look specific or it needs to be planned out further. And so there are probably people who wanted me to show up differently in this season and I was unable to for them. So I'm the crappy friend for them.
Mhm.
And like
Yeah.
I have to own that and hold that because I can't give you what you need. And so when you're talking about this idea of like one-sided relationships, I think that the person who is wanting it has the right to want it. Because like for whatever reason, if it's feeling not reciprocal, then something's feeling missing in that
Mm.
relationship. And I think that's what the actual thing is. Like I want to feel in connection with you and I don't feel in connection.
Mm.
And so that is making me feel like I am pursuing something that you are disinterested in. And like, I get that. Like, you're not going to have to tell me about how many times that you're not interested in this. But I wonder if there's space for those conversations again. And I think that's kind of where we started it. Like, hey,
Yeah.
well, I'm noticing I'm always dot, 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 and dotting. Whoever will have a response. And if that response is okay enough for you, then you get to decide what you want to do with it. If it's not, then it's not. You know what? I'm not interested in engaging with this type of relationship at this point in my life. I understand you're busy, but right now I'm really pouring into like who can pour back into me because people deserve that. And if I can't do it, I need to be able to be honest to say like I don't got
Yeah.
it right now.
But I think the point, like the word choice matters because if you come to me and say, I'm always calling you, you don't call me, I'm probably
Mm,
gonna hang up on you. I ain't gonna lie, I'm gonna hang up. But if you come to me and say, like, hey, I'm interested in connection with you, and it seems, I hate the word seems, and at this time, it feels distant, I might be able to say to you, yeah, it is distant. I don't have the capacity. Versus
but
if
is
you,
that
right?
related to like having gone to therapy though? Like I think about
Sure.
how many people would come to us in all your therapist friends, maybe. But like I'm curious if like some of the other ones, like how do we that's what's tricky about being in the mental health profession because we understand the thing and it's just like, but you're
Hmm.
talking to me crazy. So how do I want to
Mhm.
deal with this? Like, do I see you in it?
Yeah.
And I think my knee
Yeah.
jerk is the seeing you, unless you go a little too
Hmm.
like, oh, okay, you got it. But
Yeah.
really being
Yeah.
able to find the space to say like I could understand that. I could see that. Like if I was in a space where I'm like, man, I keep reaching for this person and they're like not. Like think about that in a romantic
Hmm.
relationship, right? Like, oh,
Yeah.
what are you doing? And
Yes.
so I get it. I just
Yeah.
also get the other side of it too, where like sometimes people don't have the capacity. But I think that's where communication and conversation could potentially just get us on the same page. I'm not saying it'll help, but it'll
But
create an understanding of what's actually happening.
yeah, I think that is like what you were saying, like the base of all of this is communication. It, of course, I'm always going to go back to grace and empathy because I just feel like we have to also, because it's okay, like your feeling is very valid if you feel like you need something and someone and you're reaching out and they're not showing up. But I also wonder, do people cross their mind like, well, what are they going through?
Mm.
Like sometimes we're just self-centered, like I'm going through all of this and I need you right now, and it's like, have you considered that maybe I'm going through something
Fight
too?
everybody.
Like maybe
Hmm.
I'm busy, like especially the type of work that I do. This time of
Yeah,
year is very busy. Like I don't
yeah,
have the capacity to talk to you every day.
yeah,
Um,
Hmm.
so I think that's where the extending of like, okay, maybe they're busy, or you communicate first and hear me out. Maybe I really just have been like, oh, I'm sorry, I forgot to text you back. Like a lot of stuff's been going on,
yeah.
or maybe you did something to rub me the wrong way. So I have taken a step back. Like let's get clarity on what this is
What happened?
versus
Yeah,
just getting upset. So that's why I just try to like do that. Like, but again, that's my therapist brain. Because everybody doesn't handle it like that. They're
yeah,
just like,
Right.
you fake, you this, you that. And it's like, dang, fake is crazy. Like I actually been working 8 to 8. Like I'm tired.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah.
ooh
Okay.
wee. But you brought up something. It's like understanding your needs going into it because in the way that they're low maintenance, they're also high maintenance friends. And I think they have gotten their bad rap too because it feels like, oh,
Mm.
you always no, because there once was a time, right? So, like I think about like college Shelly, who had I'd say less going on than I have now. And so
Hmm.
like there was a level of availability that I had that I could meet people with. Especially if like if we talk about those tiers of friendship, it gets real uncomfortable when those tiers are mismatched, right? So you
Hmm.
are my person, but maybe I am, or whichever way I'm trying to say this, y'all get it. Like they are your person, but maybe you are not their person. And so
Yeah.
that
Hmm.
starts to feel like, oh, well, dang, okay, well, what's going on here? And so my wanting to talk to you was like, but girl, you're my best friend. And you're like, we are cool and I love you down, but we don't have that type of relationship where I can create the space for that right now, and for whatever reason that might be. And so really
Mhm.
being able to understand, like, okay, if I need somebody who's more present or more available, okay, well, who in my network already is this person? And then maybe I can find different ways to get more support, because what it's reading as is like, I need more people. I need more community around me. When we put
Well,
too much on one person, that's a lot.
let me say this, okay? And then we can wrap up. But let me say this. People talk about being poly in romantic relationships. I'm gonna need y'all to be poly in friendships, okay? Be in a poly friendship.
Yeah. Ooh. Yeah.
Like, that's what I'm gonna lean on. Y'all
Uh-huh.
be, putting all of I mean, almost weaponizing friendship. Like, you put all of everything on one other person, one or two people. This is my best friend. This is my good friend. This is my soror. This is my, frat. This is my whatever. I'm gonna need you to be poly in your friendships. And I'm gonna
Mhm.
need you, right, to nurture different relationships so that your needs are, no one person can fulfill all
Yeah.
of your needs, and nor should they have to,
Yeah.
right? But, to pull what you all are saying into like a nice bow, I'm hearing communication is the foundation, it is the key. It needs to be both indirect. It is both verbal and nonverbal. It is written. It is, right, there's multiple ways to it. It includes tone, it includes context, it includes understanding cultural norms, how you were raised, it includes understanding attachment and what your early learning was. And realistically, it can be communication specifically can really be a healing factor in that it allows you to address things that otherwise might go unnoticed. And that when
Yeah.
you see rupture, repair is an important part of that, but repair doesn't necessarily mean the relationship continues. It simply means that either you are working on yourself or working on the relationship or both, and that you get to a place that feels good for you, not just,
Yeah.
emotionally, but physically, mentally, and that you feel globally well when it comes to that.
Mhm. Yeah.
It gives that space to have like a checkpoint, right? So even if
Hmm.
it doesn't lead to the healing, it gives you a point to pause and say, like, is this, are we in alignment here? And if not, what might need to be shifted so that we can both show up as who we need to be? And sometimes that is like the dissolution of a relationship. Sometimes that's a what is it, making sense or getting to terms on like what are the expectations, like what can I expect of you or from you, and what can you expect from me, and what am I like willing or able or have the capacity to give you. It gives you a point to kind of like just assess where you are, and then you get your choice, right? Is this a relationship that is okay in this term? Like, I really value this friendship, they are very much unavailable right now, is that okay for me?
Yeah.
Or
But
is
to your point, you have to know yourself in order to do
that
that.
that
You have to know yourself, and you have to be a person who's willing to listen.
Yeah. Like when you hear that the person doesn't have the capacity, can you be okay with that? Like, or do you just still feel like, well, I need this. You're my friend. Like,
yeah.
you should always be here for me. Like, it's. I mean, it sounds like you said, communication is the core. Also, not being able to do the work yourself before,
That,
like, not dumping all that on somebody else and making it their responsibility. Like, some of this is like, okay, maybe I can self soothe. Maybe I don't need to call them every minor inconvenience that I have.
yeah.
Mhm. Because it's not my responsibility to, like, this is going to sound harsh, but I don't think it's my responsibility to be your only person and to be the bearer of all of your stress and your angst and all that you are experiencing. Do I want to be there for you? Yes. Do I maybe want to hold and build a container with you? Sure. Do I want you to pour your shit in my container? No.
You said I can't do it.
Like, that's not in most friendships, that's what's happening. It's you're pouring your shit into my container, not that we've created one together or that you're asking me, can I put my hands up under yours? Like, do I have the capacity and ability? You're saying, nope, here, take this, put it on your shit too. Let's mix it up, right? And now you take ownership over what's going on. So,
Mhm.
And I
you
think
know,
that actually creates a lot of that dynamic that you were talking about, where it feels one sided. Because even if they're reaching out, what is the actual communication? Like when you all are in conversation with like one another, is there space for both parties to be doing this thing? And it doesn't have to be 50-50. It doesn't even have to mean every conversation. But I think when I am in my space where I'm like, okay, I have this much capacity, and I think about who are the friendships or the relationships that get prioritized in that, it's the ones that feel a little more both, right? It's like,
Mm-hmm.
can I feel as me around you? Like, do I have to button it up, put it on, whatever, to be able to show up in relationship with you? And if I have to, I don't have the space for that right now. And so that
Mm-hmm.
means as a result, our relationship is impacted by that because I have to do all the things and I have about this much thing available for
Mm-hmm.
me to do in this moment.
Yeah.
And so, what does it look like to have these relationships where you allow your friends to take up space in it? Because there's a lot of people who are that friend who are the burden. Like, they're the ones who feel like, oh, I can't because I would be a burden. Oh, I can't. And so they're not sharing at all. And that's a different, we can have that conversation a different day. I know we're just about at
Mm-hmm.
time, but then they're holding. And so their relationships feel more like work. And it's like, well, wait a minute. Why am I the therapist for everybody and I have nowhere to go? Part of that is
Mm-hmm.
like allow yourself to be seen, but then also see the relationships where the other person makes that a little easier too.
Mhm.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay. So, Dej, what's your final word?
Um, my final words today, I will say it starts with you. So in order to even thrive in a relationship, it takes a lot of self-reflection. And I think that it's okay to ask yourself, what can I do? How can I self-soothe? Or what part do I play in this? So I think, yeah, that's where I'll leave it at.
What about you, Dr. Shelley?
It's okay to find what you're looking for um, in whatever relationship that you find yourself in. And so if something isn't working or if something isn't meeting, it's okay to also be open to looking in other places to be able to find what actually feels like a good fit for you.
Mm-hmm. And I'll just say, I said jokingly like being poly friendships, but I absolutely mean
I
it.
stand by it.
I stand by it and understand who you are. Are you the high maintenance, the no maintenance, the low maintenance? Like, what type of friend are you, and what type of friends are you in relationship with? And what type do you then seem to have the most conflict with so that you start understanding, right, how you're operating? So, I enjoyed this conversation with you all. Please make sure you tune in to Guess What's in My Cup for more conversations, more fun, more laughter, more joy, more insight into what we have to share and into our, land of knowledge. So thank you, and please like, share, subscribe.